Welcome to the Digital Culture Podcast, a podcast for people working in the creative and cultural sector and want to know more about digital. I'm your host, James Akers. Welcome to this episode of the Digital Culture Podcast. I'm James, one of the tech champions at the Digital Culture Network, and we're here to help you in your digital ambitions. You can get one-to-one support from us if you're based in England and work in the creative and cultural sector. I'm a white man. Today I'm wearing my green t-shirt. I've got brown hair, it's getting slightly longer. And my guest today is the wonderful Katherine Brown.
Hi there. My name is Katherine. I'm also one of the tech champions here at the Digital Culture Network. And the area that I look after is e-commerce and merchandising, which I think we're going to be having a nice chat about this afternoon. I am a white woman in my early 40s with some quite curly looking hair today, green shirt and big specs.
And how long have you been with us in the team?
Oh, that is a really good question. So I've actually been with the Digital Culture Network just over 3 years, which has flown by. I work in this role part-time, so I haven't quite got the case volume that some of our colleagues do. But I've been here a good enough length of time to have a good feel for what different organisations and individuals in this sector are thinking about when it comes to all things e-commerce. Whether you're a small organisation, a big one, an individual, you've got a shop, you've not got a shop, you're not sure if you need a shop or whatever those shop questions might be, I'd be really thrilled to help with them.
And whereabouts are you based in the country?
So my home office is the London office, and I am actually based down in Kent near the seaside.
Your specialist area is e-commerce and merchandising. What does that mean?
Good question. So e-commerce is one of those slightly naff words, isn't it? It's clunky. But really, it's all about buying and selling stuff via the internet. Merchandising is how we make sure we have the right range available for our customers and how we make it look appealing and attractive so that we are more likely to sell it. The UK is one of the countries with the most advanced e-commerce sector. So in terms of percentage of retail done online, I think we're generally viewed as second only to South Korea. I've been watching this space for quite a while, and we have been the country to get a much higher penetration of, say, non-grocery but also grocery sales via online.
So before your time at the Digital Culture Network, what is your experience of that sector?
I have been working in retail for quite a while, and in particular online retail. So I've worked for a number of big high street retailers, ones you will probably have heard of. Mountain Warehouse, the outdoor retailer, I looked after all of their online business for a 5-year period. I looked after all of retail for the homewares brand Emma Bridgewater. And I think having experience of businesses that have got roots on the high street, that understand how humans behave in retail environments, is really useful in it helping me explain how that behaviour then translates in an online space as well. So I quite often draw parallels and analogies from physical shops because I think it helps people break down and understand customer behaviour. I think fundamentally, whether you're in a shop or whether you're on a website, you're trying to do the same thing and you're trying to help a customer find their way through to hopefully buying some lovely product from you. And there's some common things that sit across both.
Have you got some things that you advise people on a lot of the time for improving their online presence?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started in this role, as I was just saying, I came from a very retail and commercial background, and I came over to work in the art sector because it's a sector that I'm passionate about and I'm also personally interested in. In my first few months of starting to listen to what organisations were struggling with and where their problems lie, the most common question that people were coming to me was saying, well, we have this online shop. How can we grow our sales? Where can we derive more income? I talk a lot about this equation that underpins all of e-commerce, and I realise describing an equation in audio form might not be the most ideal way of doing it. But it's the thing which helps us understand what is driving our online revenue. And so that equation is how much traffic is coming into your website. So how many visitors does it get in a week or in a month or in a year? How many of those visitors decide to make a purchase, so decide to convert. So this is our conversion rate. Imagine you've got 100 people come to your website in a week and say 3 of them decide to make a purchase. Your conversion rate would be 3 over 100. That's 3%. And then the third part of this equation is how much on average does a visitor typically spend in a purchase? So imagine on average your customers spend £20. So you're understanding that online revenue. So you had 100 visitors, 3% of them chose to buy, and on average they spend £20 each. So you can multiply that through. So we had 3 people, £20 on average, so you've got £60 of revenue in your week. Is it quite boring talking about equations? I'm not sure. James is shaking his head. Thank you, James. Mr. Analytics there, he's with me.
Yeah, I've got you back.
Okay, great, good. So what this does is it helps us split up what are the drivers of our revenue. So if we want to make that final number bigger, so we want more total revenue, we've got to do one of 3 things. You've either got to get more traffic to your website, you've either got to get more people to decide to make a purchase, so you need to improve that conversion rate, or you've got to encourage them to spend more money. So you've got a different set of actions sit under each of those 3 things. So in terms of getting more traffic to your website, you're in the world of talking with all of our lovely marketing colleagues here at the DCN. So we've got wonderful tech champions who will help you with your email marketing, your social media campaigns, with your SEO campaigns, and all of those things are basically different channels where you can try and draw traffic to your website. So that's the kind of marketing side of things, getting people to the online shop. And then this next number, this conversion rate, that's where we can really think about our customer journey and how can we help people better in that experience on the website so that more people decide to make that purchase, and so increasing that conversion rate. And so back to your question, James, what do I spend a lot of time helping people do? I really spend a lot of time helping people work out how to make that conversion rate number bigger, and really digging into this thing we call the customer journey. And for completeness, I'll talk about that last number as well. So that average order value, so how much people are spending, that number is trickier to budge. So it's influenced by certain things. So imagine you're a retailer of incredible diamond bracelets. You might be selling those things for quite a high price point. That means your average order value is likely to be really quite high. So if you're selling a lot of diamond bracelets, if they're in your product mix, that's going to pull that average order value up. Or conversely, imagine you're a museum gift shop. You've got lots of little bits and pieces like little rubbers and pencils with your logo and postcards and small items. And it's really interesting because those things work really well in a physical environment, but often don't necessarily translate so well to the online environment because we get into this thing of delivery and postage and whatnot. But imagine that actually you've got some really quite low price point items and that they are selling on your online shop. They would be bringing down your average order value. So your price points of your product range massively influence that average order value. The other thing which really heavily influences it, I mentioned the D word, delivery. Do you offer, say, free delivery over a certain threshold? And if you do, where you choose to set that threshold will really influence what that average order value is. So like a really typical retail approach is to try and position that free delivery threshold at a level that just pulls your average order value up a little bit from where it might be currently sitting or may naturally sit with your product mix. And that's just helping to grow that revenue from your customer base.
And is there a way to work out what that would potentially be? Or is it a case of testing different values over time?
So I guess we're never in a vacuum, we're never in a void, unless you're just opening your shop for the first time, there's generally some historic data as to what has happened previously. And so you're able to look and see how have customers typically been behaving. And it's a careful calculation because obviously when you give your delivery away from free, you're in some ways giving up a certain amount of revenue. But the reason why we do that as retailers is because we recognise that that has the potential to improve the conversion rate. And so for more customers to check out and to check out with bigger baskets, so that on balance, this is a net positive income effect for us. And this is something which I do with organisations, and it will fluctuate through the time of year, right? So like basket size will get bigger in the run up to Christmas because more people are shopping and they're buying more things. Often I'm sitting with organisations to look at this, and it is a case of there's not like a number that comes out of thin air. It has to commercially make sense for you as an organisation and make sense with your product mix. If I think about shopping online, what I see of other retailers, both in the commercial sector, but also, in the arts and culture sector as well, it's quite common to see free postage offers around the £40 or £50 mark. £30 is a bit lower, and it would generally reflect that this is a retailer who already has quite low price point items and is just struggling to get their basket size any bigger than that. And it definitely is something to be looked at carefully and monitored and done with a commercial pragmatic head. From a commercial perspective, I analyse the hell out of this stuff for big retailers because it makes such a big difference to trading and to profitability.
You're coming in with that expertise to then working on much smaller shops, I imagine, but making much more impact with these small little changes.
Yeah, absolutely. People can get really quite nervous about it because there's a big potential upside, but there's concern about, are we going to lose money? We've got to pay for the postage and the customer's not giving us some money. And I always say that if you make a change like this, it doesn't have to be forever. You need to test it for a reasonable amount of time. Generally, you would probably want to test it for a couple of weeks at least. Online shops aren't set in stone. They're not things like you build them once and then they're done. They need quite active merchandising. You can think of it a little bit like tending your garden, making sure that your homepage reflects your seasonal ranges, reflects, if you're an arts organisation, any product which ties in with current programming, making sure that your navigation menu flexes with the time of year, you're signposting Christmas ranges in the run-up to Christmas, seasonal things at the appropriate moment. You've got to look after stock levels, what's in stock, out of stock. I think one of the kind of pitfalls I see quite often is people underestimating the amount of tending that an online shop may need.
Yeah, I really like that analogy. That's really good. So all the different online shops that you've seen over your time at the Digital Culture Network, they must have sometimes quite similar products. What is their unique selling point, or how do they get unique products? Is there a process they can go through to find the ones that are going to work for them and for their audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing which I see in common across different arts organisations and cultural organisations' shops is that the bulk of their product range is really focused around gifting. And I use gifting in a broad sense, gifting for the self and gifting for others. None of this is essential stuff. We're not selling roll and baked beans. We're selling a few things which are going to remind us of the arts organisations and cultural venues and art that we love, right? It's quite an emotional purchase, and we're either buying it because we want something which has that feeling around us in our daily lives, or we're buying that as a gift for somebody who we know, who we think would appreciate having this in their lives. In terms of the typical product I see online, it's around homewares. So there's a lot of mugs, tea towels, glassware, ceramics, and that's a really appealing product category. one of my favourite things when people are asking me about what products should I stock or sell. I always think mugs are a very good place to start. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, I did work for a certain very well-known homeware brand. But also the question I generally put to people is I challenge people to think of somebody who they know who doesn't own a mug, or to think about a day when you didn't use a mug yourself, right? Like, they're very ubiquitous and they're a nice, accessible price point. You can make them appealing and witty and reflecting your programming and whatnot. And they don't come in size ranges, right? It's not like you've got to get your size gradings right. So they're quite an easy product to stock. So there's a whole bunch of stuff around homeware. There's a whole bunch of stuff around prints. And then we can get into the world of print on demand, offering different sizes, framing, be able to mock it up in different environments, etc. So that's an area which I help people with quite a lot. And then you've got your clothing product as well. But with clothing, it's a little trickier. It's not too tricky, but it's not fashion. But you enter into this question of fit. So it is slightly more complicated product to sell, not as easy. And books, that's the other big area, a very particular part of the online retail spectrum. It's something which I've been digging into a little bit more myself, and I'm going to spend a bit more time over the next coming months digging into the whole book retailing ecosystem, which has its own unique properties, where the information comes from the ISBNs, big publishing houses, big wholesale chains, sale or return, independent presses. When I'm working with smaller organisations, there might be grassroots publishing, unique zines. This is a really important part of an organisation's potential retail strategy, and that is developing unique product. So you might do that in partnership with local artists. You might do that through using images or words from your own archive. Done well, product development can be a really successful thing. And what it means is it's about trying to dig into your identity and develop something which reflects that identity that your visitors or fans are going to want to have around them, that you can create in product form. So be it a mug with a witty quote from something in your literary archive, a beautiful print, something on a tea towel. There are fantastic people out there who create beautiful custom silk scarves for different organisations. There's a whole bunch of different, much more bespoke artisan makers who work with organisations to help develop ranges. And I think it's a really exciting area to look at. If you can get a couple of products really on the money, it can really add a big chunk of sales to your online shop. And it's one of the things, especially in the online world, people could be shopping elsewhere. And so it's one of the things to convince them to shop with you if you've got this beautiful, unique product that actually they can't buy from anywhere else.
That's nice, yeah. I really like the idea of linking what you offer and who you are as an organisation back to the type of products you're creating. An example just sprung to mind is the Hepworth Wakefield over in Yorkshire. They stock these bird boxes by this local artist called John Hollington. I've got one in my garden. Blue tits whizzing in and out of there, which is really nice. But the design of it is really similar to Barbara Hepworth's work. So it really relates back to the artist and what the organisation's about. And I can't afford a Hepworth sculpture. I don't have millions of pounds. But I can afford a bird box, which is in the same style, which is a really nice way of me taking something away.
Yeah, that is absolutely the way to approach it. Another organisation which does this very well is Kettle's Yard. They've got some fantastic ceramics and I think stone pieces that echo parts of their permanent collection and have been long-term popular favourites with their visitors and customers. So yeah, absolutely, that's a really strong vein of product development.
So for somebody coming into this for the first time, maybe they don't have an online shop. All the stuff you've said can be quite overwhelming. And they might go, I don't have a stock room for all this stuff to go. But you don't have to have one, do you? There are other ways to do things.
There are. And I think also like everything we've spoken about so far has probably been a little bit more on the organisation side of things. I do work a lot with individual artists and makers who are wanting to trade from home via the internet and their own website. And I often am helping them figure out some low cost options and low maintenance options that make sense for them. Sometimes they might be an individual like ceramicists. They're one of the biggest groups I get. But recently I've also had a leather worker. That was interesting. Something which feels quite product-y, right? It's an item, and it's an item that the price point is kind of affordable, and they have that stuff in quantity. They're used to putting a price tag on it and selling it. Often this is when makers are looking to develop past craft markets, etc. Sorting out an online shop presence can be a really positive addition for them. So I help them figure that out. You mentioned the stockroom though, and yes, there are ways that organisations can be entirely hands-off, can sell products and not have to wrap them up in brown paper and post them out, not have to deal with all of that side of things. And that methodology is called print on demand. And what this entails is designing a range of products. Common items for this are prints, t-shirts, mugs, and you really are choosing and designing in quite a way this product. So even with something like a mug, for example, you've got to choose what image you're putting on that mug, how it's positioned. Does that mug look nice from both sides? What colour mug? How does that colour complement the image you're intending to print on it? You need to think about, is there some kind of mark on the base of that mug? So there's quite a bit of mocking up of that item, and you do all of that digitally, and there are various different print on demand suppliers who've got a platform that will help you do that. Likewise, you pick your t-shirt, you want a sloppy one or a tight skinny one or whatever the style is you want. So there's quite a bit of aesthetic choice and design involved, and you put your image or whatever on that item, and then you are able to put that for sale. And that can be on your own website. You can also put it for sale through the platform's website. Largely people do it on their own. And then a customer would come and they would decide, oh yes, I really want this really nice blue t-shirt with big funky print on it. They order it. And when that order is placed with you, it gets passed on to the print on demand supplier. The clue is kind of in the name, print on demand. So that t-shirt is then manufactured there and then in that moment, and they post it to your customer. They take a percentage of the money and you take a percentage of the money. And another area that I do help people with is looking at the right items that could be in a print on demand range. How do you make it nice and appealing? And who are the right print on demand suppliers to work with? And how do you plug that into your digital platform to make all of that work? So there are a few different elements of it, but if you've got time to play with and you've got time to design some products and to market them to your audience, you can effectively do all this without having to invest in stock yourself. So no cash outlay with the potential for revenue generation off the back of it. An organisation which does this quite well and has had some really successful ranges, and who the Digital Culture Network have supported quite a bit along the way, have been the Migration Museum. So they've got a fantastic range of products. One of their best-selling designs is a t-shirt which has the message, "Migration is not a crime." And they are advertising those out on social media, and those social media adverts pull customers through to the Migration Museum website, and I've helped work with them on improving the conversion rate of their online shop. Customers choose to buy it, and it's generating revenue for them, and then it gets packed and sent out by that print-on-demand supplier. All of the many t-shirts that they're selling, they're not doing the hard work of holding that stock and sending it out. So it's been quite a good revenue line for them with no negative cash flow implications, which with a traditional retail model you do have. You've got to pay for the stock before you can sell it generally.
And do you help people make that decision about what the best solution for them is? So whether it is setting up their own online shop, working with a partner, using print on demand?
Yes. So I do this quite a bit, and online shops are the bulk of what I do, but I am really cognizant that they take time and effort, and there are actually clever solutions out there which enable you to sell things without having a full online shop. So quite often, if I'm working with individual makers or a small organization who've just got one or two items that they want to sell, and having a whole online shop with navigation menus and different collections and ranges, that's not appropriate for them. They haven't got that volume of product and stuff. That's a whole level of work and faff, and also, quite frankly, expense, right? Like, online shop software is not really free. We can help navigate you to some lower cost versions, but it does cost money to run an online shop. And so there are, if you were in this kind of small organisation or individual with a couple of items to sell, one or two, there are some solutions around payment links that enable you to be taking money without having to do all of this heavy work. So I'm always trying to think about how we make this accessible and viable for the organisation or individual I'm working with. And that really varies from case to case as to what that may be.
Do you have a shining example of a shop that you share regularly and you absolutely love?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, no, because do you know what? We all shop online at various different places. And what I would say is I spend my time screenshotting my favourite bits of various different online shops. So I might be somewhere, and for example, I think I was on the Victoria and Albert Museum's online shop recently, and they've got a really great, straightforward navigation menu. They've got quite a broad range of products, so it's challenging from a merchandising point of view. You've got to communicate all of these different things, and I think they do a pretty good job of it. But does anybody ever nail it the whole way through? I'm not sure that they necessarily do. My formative experience in e-commerce, as I say, was running the online shop for Mountain Warehouse. And you might not be in the market for a waterproof coat or walk-in boots, but actually they have a really good, very functional website, and they have a very commercial team behind the scenes, and they test that website thoroughly. So in terms of quite simple, straightforward structure and layout, they're doing a good job. In my personal life, I've done a lot of DIY over the last couple of years. I've spent an awful lot of time at Screwfix, and their click and collect functionality is bang on. I guess their audience is very busy tradespeople who are quite no fuss, and they really nail that well. So I'm always looking across different sectors, different shops, etc. And things are always moving and changing. I'm of the mindset that you should be inspired by the best bits you see everywhere, and your eyes can always be open for good digital functionality.
Brilliant. Before I wrap things up then, this is a question I've asked everybody. Do you have a favourite support call or conversation you've had over the last 6 months?
Okay, so I'm going to go for a slightly non-answer. I'm going to have a grouping. So in the last couple of months, I've had cases with the Leach Pottery, with Hastings Contemporary, Open City, and I've got one just coming in from the Photographers Gallery. And these are all medium-sized organisations who are looking at some wholesale revamps of their digital infrastructure. And I've been approached to help advise on the e-commerce side of things, and I really, really enjoy listening to a particular organisation and understanding what their needs are, what is currently working for them and what isn't, and helping them navigate towards putting together a strong digital infrastructure that will work for them, so that the e-commerce plays well with the ticketing, it plays well with the donations, and that overall the whole platform is user-friendly for the customers, but also really importantly for the staff, and that they're able to get the information and analytics and to be able to do the things they need to do with their infrastructure. So I really enjoy doing that type of work, which is digging in more deeply, understanding the organisations more broadly and how their various different functions interconnect.
Amazing. There must be some really good insights that you get by being part of that process over a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something I've been working with the Design Museum, who are part of the Bloomberg Digital Accelerator Programme. It's been really fantastic to spend more time with their team and understanding the different requirements of, say, the marketing team, the development team, the curatorial team, the learning and education team. Arts organisations are really fascinating. They've got very diverse sets of activity that goes on within them. When I first came to this role working in arts organisations, I obviously know retail really well, and it's very easy often to see opportunities for driving more retail revenue. But ultimately, arts organisations and also individual artists and makers, they exist for a reason beyond simply selling stuff. They've got a broader mission and various different bits of functionality, and they're quite complicated in terms of what you need to be able to offer your different customers or audiences. So I find that really interesting to understand, and helping retail be a strong supporting function of that. And I think there's a lot that we can take from the kind of customer focused mentality that retail has to help more broadly throughout arts organisations.
Thank you so much, Katherine. That's been really interesting to learn about your specialist area. I thought I'd summarise for me some of the key takeaways. So firstly, the very beginning we were talking about how important it is to have a test and learn cycle and constantly developing and just trying things out. If you do need to see if free post works for a while, just do that. Secondly, having an online presence, doing your online shop and merchandising, it's like tending a garden. It needs watering. You need to snip certain things off. You need to mow your grass and all those things. I think it was a really nice analogy about how you can't just put it up and expect it to do well. You need to be constantly evolving it. And the third point, for me, the big takeaway is that, yes, this can sound really scary. There's a lot of considerations. There might be a lot of work in some of these areas, but don't be scared. Because at the end of the day, Katherine's here to help you. Each of those stages, whether it's thinking about starting up a brand new online shop or making your existing one more efficient, work better, or get more people across your organisation involved in it to make the most of it. Because it can be such a great revenue stream for a cultural organisation or individual artists as well.
Yeah, thanks, James. Really enjoyed the conversation, and it's lovely hearing it reflected back in those ways. I'd be really thrilled if any of this has resonated with you, or particular questions have pinged up in your mind. Do reach out and book in for some one-to-one support.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Katherine. Remember, if you are based in England and you work in this sector, you can get free one-to-one support from us. It's free, it's unlimited, and it's tailored to you. So please do get in touch.